feel like we just released the Spectacles update yesterday, but somehow it's already time to showcase the next update, Champion's Journey. 2 new maps, a player weight system, player skill overhaul, item mods, content, a calendar, ambush, and a game-changing feature, random traits. We've built the foundation for a lot of these features back in the Spectacles update, so a lot of these things are tied together quite neatly. 2 new maps are actually based on the Grand Plaza, so there are 2 areas in the Grand Plaza that we specifically made to turn into new arenas. First of all, we have the City Slums, which is like this dark, muddy, almost like gang-like back alley. And the second one is called the City Market, which is like this repurposed minor plaza, if you will, very close to the Grand Plaza. And that's kind of where some smaller fights are sometimes organized. We've also added a kind of new game mode called Ambush, which is a random dialogue event that can trigger. And when you do get ambushed, you have the option to either sort of try to flee and probably lose some coin in the process, or you can face your assailants and go into these brand new city and alley streets that we've made and fight against these bandits that are trying to get the better of you. And of course, if you're playing Desperate Politician, you'll have your trusty bodyguard by your side as well. So we've overhauled the player weight and skill system. The weight system in particular is brand new. We've added this little UI panel where you can overview your character fully. And one of the new sections is a weight indicator. So the weight itself on every piece of equipment has been overhauled, and together it sort of amounts to your total encumbrance. When you fall into the light category, for example, you get a bunch of movement buffs and some special effects. And when your character falls into heavy, you get some negative skill modifiers, but also some positive benefits. And of course, you have a bunch more armor on, which is intrinsically pretty good. But now you have a reason to play as a light armored character, or you can go all the way for a tank. You know, you can really equip those heavy shields and all that. And basically, you can go for a specific build. For all this stuff, we needed to do a little bit of a skill overhaul. And now you have something called bonus skills. So modifiers on items, traits, and all kinds of things can give you bonus modifiers. These can also be negative. And now you can actually go past 100 skill all the way to 125 with the use of these bonus skills. And linking up with this are a bunch of new item traits which lean into this system. So there are now a bunch of traits which give you bonus skill depending on what it is. In particular, we're trying to add some really interesting strategic uses to leg armor and torso pieces. Some of the things that we've added and are going to add will sort of enable more light builds or something where you focus on dashing a lot or who knows what. Another direct continuation of the Spectacles update is that we've added a calendar or a timeline. So now you can see where all these new rare fights from the Spectacles update sit in the coming weeks, and you can plan ahead. We intend to add more stuff to this timeline as we go, so special events, unique things that might happen. I think the timeline is like a relatively small feature, but it really helps give that feeling that you're playing a roguelike and you can plan and make sure that you make decisions based on, you know, what is happening. Also, a small thing that has had quite an impact is we've completely rebalanced and redone the range stat on every single item in the game, so all the weapons. Now the range reflects the actual length of the mesh accurately. Onto la pièce de résistance. Character traits. When you roll a character, they now start with random traits. These can be positive, neutral, and negative. There are major and minor variants of all 3. These character traits show up in 2 ways. So the first way is when you roll a new character via the backstory screen, you will get assigned a random selection of traits. They try to balance out to a 0 value, so you get negative traits and positive traits and then some neutrals in there, depending on how you rolled. So sometimes you might roll 1 positive major trait and then 2 negative minor traits, for example, to balance each other out. Or you might get 2 major traits of each type and then a neutral trait in between. This is nearly 100% random. We do curate some weird like clashes or things that don't make sense, things that negate each other and so on, but largely it's pretty much random. And these are your starting traits. We had a lot of fun designing major traits that massively impact your run. Like that was the core tenet of a major trait. It should be something that really influences where you go with your character, what you can do, and how you play the game overall. So to give you some examples, there's now a giant trait and then the opposite, vertically challenged. And these make your character physically smaller or larger. So you have less range physically, and you're also a bigger or smaller target. On top of that, you get damage buffs or debuffs, and it also affects your weight, for example. There's a trait called Born Leader, and then its counterpart, which is called Underdog. So Born Leader will allow you to basically buff your allies by taunting. And underdog gives you a buff if you are outnumbered by the enemy. So one will have you play big giant team fights, and the other one will, push you towards 1v-manys or survival fights or this kind of thing. There's a trait called Owakan Heritage, which leaves you wearing a Owakan mask that you cannot take off or sell. If it gets destroyed, it just comes back magically. So the whole run you're wearing this mask and you have to deal with it. It's a unique piece though that gives you some special buffs as well. And we even have negative traits like one-armed and peg leg, which see you play the game with just one arm or one leg. One-armed especially, you can't use shields, you cannot use two-handers, so you're stuck to one-handed weapons. But you do get a little buff to one-handed skill. Good luck. As you can imagine, these things wildly change the game, and it really adds a ton of freshness and replayability to every character, something that was much needed. So the second way that traits appear in the game is when you have completed a rare fight, specifically an elite fight or a tournament. The reward is now on top of fame and gold, you gain a random character trait. This reward takes from a pool of minor positive traits, which very often they sort of influence your skills or give you a relatively small buff, but it allows you to sort of refine where your character's headed, right? The champion's journey. And by the end, you have sort of something that pushes towards a certain play style and you can really lean into it. We have a selection of over 50 traits already, and we intend to make more as we go. These traits also unlock slowly as you play with them. First, you can unlock what they are by just experiencing them, having a character with those traits. And the second layer is that when you win with a character that has a certain set of traits, those traits will show that you won with them before. So for the completionist out there, you now have a bunch of new reasons to play quite a few hours to fill out this roster. We also designed these traits to have really nice synergies among themselves, so some playstyles just kind of emerged from this. For example, there's a trait called Improviser, which is a neutral trait that makes luck of the draw much more common. And a really good synergy with this trait is the trait Brawler, which makes you much better at fighting with random stuff off of the floor. It does more damage if you use destructibles. Your weapons break faster though, but you have a reason to break things on the enemy's head. You can imagine more luck of the draw makes Brawler better, and Brawler makes luck of the draw better. So this is a really cool thing to have together. Another example is Blacksmith's Friend, which makes insurance more common, preserving your gear. And then you have Sharpener, which gives you more damage if your weapon is above 90% durability. There are lucky and unlucky traits. There's actually two variants of both. And those kind of affect the RNG of the whole game. Every single RNG thing that happens is influenced by lucky and unlucky. We just had to have a lucky and unlucky. Come on, it's like a rite of passage. Less obvious synergies are, for example, Machismo, which disallows you from wearing a chest piece, right? You're just too awesome for it. But then you can have Dodgy and Trained Acrobat, which allows you to dash much better and faster, so you just don't even get hit. Doesn't matter if you're wearing armor if you just don't get hit. And then on top of that, you could be playing a light character, light armor, right? Because Machismo enables light anyway. Maybe you just don't go with the shield at all, and then you get even more buffs to movement. It makes a lot of sense. It plays really well. It's very satisfying when these things click together, and the game feels much more deep with this entire trait system that's kind of like the glue between all these different things in the game already. I didn't want to spoil too many traits. It's a lot more fun to just encounter them in the game and experience them as you go. I really recommend that you play and just roll a character and go with it. Just lean into whatever's happening, and the next character will have different traits and you can slowly sort of reveal them as you go. I want to take a moment to thank all the closed testers. A bunch of people have signed up and tested this ahead of time, so people have been playing this for about a month already. And you guys have really helped with the bug reports and the feedback that you've given us. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for helping. And of course, with the release, we're not done, right? So if you have trait ideas or you have ideas for the balancing of these traits, please do let us know. You can always contact us in the Discord channels, feedback, suggestions, and this kind of thing. We read that stuff quite often. And you can also put comments down here on YouTube or on Steam or wherever. And most likely, eventually, one of us will read it. That's it. The update is out right now, so go and have fun. And thank you for watching. And as always, we who are about to die salute you. And now's the part where I have to edit for 20 hours. Let's do this thing.